I, 39 male, have been married to my wife, 32, for 4 years. We usually get along just fine. One of the issues we've had since our relationship began was our freezer. Simply put, my wife stuffs the freezer full of food constantly. There is zero space for me to put anything in there. At first, I tried to solve this by buying a fridge with an enormous freezer. I dropped nearly $4,000 on it. She interpreted this as an invitation to buy more frozen food so she could play microwave dinner Tetris with the freezer. Every single nook and cranny is stuffed full. She still buys frozen foods and somehow finds a way to fit them in. The worst part is when I buy frozen food or freeze something for meal prep, she asks me at least 3 to 4 times a day when I'm going to take it out of the freezer. She essentially nags me until I remove the food from the freezer so she can put something she won't be touching for 6 months in its place. Last weekend I finally snapped and bought an inexpensive single-door deep freezer. I put it in the basement by the washer-dryer and put a couple of my things in it, mostly some frozen veggies and a few burritos. I didn't mention it to my wife because she wasn't home when I brought it in. When my wife got home later in the day, she went downstairs to do laundry and discovered my freezer. She excitedly ran upstairs to tell me that the upstairs one was full and she could actually fit more food in there now. I responded that under no circumstances is she to touch the freezer because it's mine. Not a single ice cube should be put in there. Then I told her not even to ask because I knew she'd mentioned 3 or 4 times a day that she needs more freezer room. She sulked and tried to debate the issue, but I could placate her. A couple of days later, I went down to the basement to get something from my freezer, and there I found it about 70% full of microwave dinners. Upon checking the freezer in the kitchen, I found that it too was still completely full. So I calmly went downstairs with a large garbage bag, threw everything into it, and then tossed it into our trash bin. Then I found a padlock lying around and locked it with the chain. Later that day, my wife brought more frozen food for the new freezer, but when she got downstairs, she noticed the lock and flipped her lid. She told me I was controlling. When I told her that there was no way she would ever use that freezer again, she threw something like a tantrum and left for her mum's house. She returned later that day and told me I had 24 hours to unlock the freezer. Nothing happened after those 24 hours, but now she's completely ignoring everything I say. I think my actions were justifiable, but was I wrong here? Not the idiot. Does your wife have some issues, maybe a food equivalent of a hoarder? Did she grow up with food scarcity or something? I think this is something your wife might need to work on because those meals will not be eaten and will eventually go bad. It's a huge waste. Can you guys do a fun challenge where you try and empty the freezer, like not buy any food until it's empty? She has faced poverty and food scarcity and has maybe created a hobby out of filling spaces with crap, even if it is edible, that won't be used. Oh man, you are in for one journey here. And next time, please donate the food instead of trashing it. Her food hoarding is now at the call a doctor level. She can always go get her own freezer and fill it to the brim with whatever. Again, ask her at what point, at how many freezers would she stop and think it okay for you to have your own freezer space that she can't use? How many months of frozen food does she actually need? Can she tell you how long it would take to get through what she already has? You're unlikely to get rational answers to these questions, but asking them might open space in her mind where she can see, even a little, that she's being irrational and needs to deal with her issues. I actually chuckle because she's like a cute little squirrel happily filling freezers, but you need to have a kind and gentle sit-down discussion about what is causing her compulsion and encourage her to go to therapy. Not the idiot, but be kind and understand that this is likely a problem bigger than you or she can solve alone. So my 21 female brother, 26, got married last weekend. He and my new sister-in-law, 26, had known each other for a few years, and naturally I was invited to the wedding. She'd been vegan since she was 12 and converted my brother in recent years, so they decided to make the wedding vegan. This meant that all the catering was vegan food, even alcohol, and they used petals from their garden instead of plastic confetti to make the wedding as eco-friendly as possible. I have no problem with any of this and think it's great. Anyway, the problem is this. The issue I often have with eating anywhere is that I have multiple allergies: peanuts, soy, sesame, and a mild shellfish allergy. The first 3 I named are very serious and have landed me in hospital in the past because of cross-contamination, so I'm wary. So I asked my brother if there would be anything safe for me to eat at the event. But because they're using a local neighborhood ladies' business as the catering service instead of something professional, I didn't feel comfortable enough that there was 0 chance of me reacting, mainly because the allergens were ingredients in many dishes. I felt it too risky, So I said I'd bring my own food, and he agreed that was the best option. I've done this with plenty of such events in the past, and it's never been a problem. The wedding day arrives and it comes time to eat. Everyone is digging into the food, and I pull out my Tupperware quite happily and dig in, when I see the bride staring at me with horror on her face. I had brought a homemade sort of salad box with 2 eggs on top, and she just stared at me in disgust the entire time we ate without saying anything. After the meal was finished, she pulled me to the side. She said I ruined her meal and her appetite and ruined her day, and that I'm clearly a selfish person because I can't even go one meal without animal secretions at a vegan wedding, and that it was seriously disrespectful because the fact it was a vegan wedding was the main focus. In my eyes, I brought my food because they couldn't provide me with something safe to eat, and it's not like I brought a steak. I had 2 eggs in a big salad, and she must have been specifically staring at my food even to realize they were there. However, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm the idiot because my brother also said it was in poor taste and I should have brought something else. So, what are your thoughts? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. While I understand having dietary restrictions and it being her day, you have unavoidable dietary restrictions in that you are severely allergic to some foods, some of which were listed in the ingredients. You talked it out and got permission to bring your food. You did your due diligence. From there, it's your brother's responsibility to tell his new wife what's going on. Honestly, I think her brother is the idiot for not ensuring she had a safe meal. She's family, not a random +1, and I think it's on the people having the wedding to ensure dietary requirements are catered to. Since he and his wife failed to be hospitable to OP by providing food she can eat without dying or becoming severely ill, he gets no say in what she eats. Sorry, the focus of her wedding was veganism. Not that she was committing to the person she loves. She is an idiot for that comment alone. Would she rather have you eat the food they provided and then have to call an ambulance? If OP had eaten the catered food and had to be taken away in an ambulance, the bridezilla would have still pitched a hissy because OP was stealing her thunder or some ridiculousness. OP, the bridezilla was looking to make an issue. No matter what you did, she would have had a problem. 4 years ago, my teen female mother died at 37 years old from an accident. My brothers are 18 and a young teen now. My dad is now 40. Before my mother died, she had a massive collection of dresses. She always adored dresses, especially satin ones. My dad would show my siblings and me pictures of them from their junior and senior proms, and she was always in fantastic dresses. Her dress always stood out in photos where she's with her friends, so I started to want to wear her dresses, especially for cosplay. I asked my dad if I could, and he gave me a few to try. They were her night out dresses when she went out with her girlfriends, but it wasn't what I wanted. So I asked him if I could have her dress from their Sadie Hawkins dance junior year for a Jessica Rabbit cosplay. My dad said no because that was their first school dance together as a couple. My older brother even told me to stop asking and just find something else, with the dresses my dad let me try out. But I wanted to do the Jessica Rabbit cosplay. So my dad offered to buy me a similar dress, but my mom's dress looked exactly like the Jessica Rabbit dress. Eventually, I snuck into her dress's closet at night and used it to do the cosplay. I'm a bit on the heavier side, and my mom's best friend, 41 female, always describes that my mom's body was always like a Coca-Cola bottle. So the dress was a bit tight and there were 2 small tears. I took some pictures and my younger brother walked in and saw me. He stared at me for a bit before he walked off. My dad came in late and asked what I was doing. I told him I just wanted to try the dress. My dad started crying and it woke up my older brother and he came in. But when he came in, my dad told my brothers that they and he would leave so I could change out of the dress. So I came out of my room and gave the dress back to my dad, who was still crying. My older brother offered to take it back to the closet and my dad let him. That's when my older brother noticed the tears and he lost his mind. He just screamed, "You messed it up." My dad asked what he meant and my brother showed him. My dad was silent and walked off with the dress. My older brother told my other brother to go back to bed. My older brother proceeds to call me selfish and disrespectful. I told him it wasn't like I wore a wedding dress, which caused my brother to yell at me more. He then grabbed the dresses my dad originally allowed me to try on and walked out with them. My dad is avoiding talking about it. My brothers are both angry at me, and my mom's best friend will try to sew the tears back together. My friends are even saying I'm an idiot. I'm starting to feel bad now, but I just really wanted to try it on. Am I the idiot? Edit. My mom and dad started dating their junior year, but my dad had a massive crush on her since they were freshmen. The dress was from their first school dance together as a couple. My mom's best friend is repairing the dress at the moment. She also handed me a picture of them both from that night to make me think. You are the idiot. You may not see the problem with what you did because you have no emotional connection to that dress. But your dad did have an emotional connection to that dress and you ignored that. You didn't care what anyone else thought on the subject. You only thought about what you wanted and completely disregarded everyone else. If I were your mother, I would be so ashamed of the self-absorbed, selfish, disrespectful person you are. Your lack of empathy, compassion and awareness is actually concerning. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought it was going to be about when reading the beginning, but come on, girl, destroying your late mom's clothing for a Jessica Rabbit's cosplay? Not even a nice occasion like dressing up in your mother's clothes for memory's sake, to reminisce and share a nice moment with the rest of the family. Get your head out of your butt. You are the idiot 100%. I told him it's not like I wore her wedding dress. Do you realize that dress was their first school dance together and is also important? Maybe even equal to her wedding dress. Your father is probably already so distraught about losing his wife, his high school sweetheart, and you just disrespected him by ruining a very important dress over a cosplay is awful. I'm glad your little brother let your dad know and that your older brother told you that was wrong. Also, I'm glad to hear your mother's best friend is fixing the dress, and bless her heart because I bet it has to be painful to sew your deceased best friend's dress. My 34 male sister gave birth 2 months ago. She brought the baby to my wife and my 23 wedding. She breastfeeds wherever she goes. We visit her house and she breastfeeds in front of us. Visiting our parents, she breastfeeds. Going out in a public setting, she'll sit on a bench in the park and breastfeed. Go out to a restaurant, she breastfeeds. Everywhere. I've never spoken about it because I know she'll get mad and offended, but when she did that at my wedding, I lost my cool. During the reception dinner, she just did it again. So I kindly approached her and asked her why she didn't bring formula, or at least bump milk out and put it in the bottle so she wouldn't have to do all this at that moment. She said, because I don't have to. I feel comfortable breastfeeding. Getting milk out on my own is more painful. I said she should make this sacrifice and compromise for one day instead of doing this in front of 250 guests at my wedding. She then said she couldn't do much about it now because the baby had to have her milk. I told her she should be more thoughtful of that instead of thoroughly embarrassing herself and us. I told my wife the deal and she said I'm an idiot and should immediately apologize to my sister. Unfortunately, my parents also sided with my sister and now pretty much everyone thinks I'm an idiot since I'm the only person who had a problem with it. I decided to call her out because I considered it bad etiquette and tacky to do that at a formal event, and that she could find another solution for that night. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. I'm assuming you fed your guests. That includes your nephew. Did you ask all the other guests at the wedding not to eat too? Your sister deserves a hug and a thank you for making an effort to attend a wedding with an infant. He should have made everyone just eat the same way. Okay everyone, we've provided a thin blanket for every guest to place over their plate and head so that you can privately enjoy your meal. The other option is to go eat in the bathroom. Happy meal time. You're 34 and your wife is 23? Imagine marrying a woman 11 years younger who is still more mature than you. Madness. God, what is it with all the guys who marry women younger than them? They all seem to be immature and controlling in the same way. Everyone thinks you're the idiot because you're the only person who had a problem with it. And they're right. The only tacky person with bad etiquette is you. My boyfriend and I are both 18. I was going to see my brother to discuss some family stuff. My boyfriend was with me, so he came along. My brother and sister-in-law just had triplets and they also have a toddler. So 4 babies in the house. They need all the help they can get. I went to talk to my brother and my sister-in-law just handed one of the babies over to my boyfriend and told him to keep walking with her in his arms until she fell asleep. My boyfriend did that, but when we returned he kept complaining that my sister-in-law didn't ask him to do it. She assumed it and just put him in a position he couldn't refuse. Edit, he could always refuse, but he considered it rude, so he didn't refuse. I told him, whatever, don't come again then, and he accused me of dismissing his feelings and concerns. I told him that if you unexpectedly visit a family with 4 babies, you can't expect hospitality and you're going to have to help entertain a baby. That's life. He said I'm being dismissive about it. I told him to stop moaning and stop being a child. He accused me of being an idiot. You are the idiot. Your boyfriend is right on this one. Not expecting hospitality is one thing, but being expected to care for someone else's newborn without your consent is not okay. His presence alone is not consent. Yeah, I feel he's not relating the circumstances correctly because I'd never hand a newborn to an 18-year-old man and assume he's okay with it. Strange for the mother to just instantly trust he was comfortable with that. Not the idiot. She just gave birth to 3 babies and has a toddler to take care of. At this point, she'd probably hand the baby to her Uber delivery driver if it would get them to stay asleep. I was so sleep deprived after we had twins that I would have handed them to anyone who would hold them so I could pee in peace. Poor Mom probably would have handed him 2 if he'd had more arms. OP just needed to say thank you so much for helping when you didn't have to, and I'm sorry you're uncomfortable. Then don't go over there anymore because there will probably be a baby thrust upon you. LOL. Disagree. You are the idiot, OP. Just because of this. If you unexpectedly visit a family with 4 babies, you can't expect hospitality, and you're going to have to help entertain a baby. It's an expectation in your family, but doesn't mean it applies to all families. Handing a baby to someone unexpectedly, without asking, is invasive and rude. No one is obligated to tend to another's children, casual drop-in visit or not. Full stop. No. If you visit someone who just had a baby, you either bring dinner, go ready to clean, or help with the baby. You don't go to someone's house who just had a baby and expect to be entertained. They're exhausted, entirely sleep deprived. So even if Mom shouldn't just have shoved a baby into his arms, she literally can't even think straight.